There's a city where people speak more languages than in all of Europe. In this place, it's technically against the rules to greet someone by putting your thumb to your nose and wiggling your fingers. That city is New York. It's full of wild contradictions, and many of its facts are hard to believe. From a skyscraper designed to survive a nuclear disaster to a secret train station under a fancy hotel, New York proves that truth can be stranger than fiction. Today, we're sharing 50 of the most absurd, unlikely, and bizarre facts about New York. Most people think of a state in terms of finance and tourism, but there's much more to it. We'll look at strange geography, odd twists of history, and laws so unusual that you could end up in trouble just for carrying an ice cream cone in your pocket. How did a Dutch trading post turn into a city full of contradictions? What made a granite island become one of the most complex places on Earth? This isn't just a list, it's a look at how one state became the center of global chaos. We'll explore how nature, bold architecture, and unusual laws all came together to make a place that seems almost impossible. The anomalies of scale. We begin with the overwhelming numbers. To understand New York City's size, consider its density. Manhattan's population density is so high that if everyone in the world lived that way, the world's population could fit into New Zealand. But the strange facts about size don't stop there. Take Marble Hill, for example. It's legally part of Manhattan, but it's actually attached to the Bronx. In 1895, a canal separated Marble Hill from Manhattan, and in 1914, the city filled in the creek that separated it from the Bronx. Now, you can walk from the Bronx to this piece of Manhattan without crossing a bridge. Central Park is even bigger than the whole country of Monaco. Imagine a nation fitting inside a city park. But this green space wasn't always empty. Before it became a park, it was home to Seneca Village, a community of African-American landowners and Irish immigrants. In the 1850s, the city forced about 1,600 people to leave so they could create what they called a necessary lung for the city. They wiped out a town to make a lawn. Now think about the coastline. New York City has 520 miles of it, more than Miami, Boston, Los Angeles, and San Francisco put together. For a city surrounded by water, its biology is just as unusual. In the past, oysters were so common in the harbor that they were a main food for poor people. In the 1800s, it's estimated that New Yorkers ate half the world's oysters. Their shells paved Pearl Street and were used in the mortar for Trinity Church. Today, the Billion Oyster Project is working to bring oysters back to help clean the water and restore a lost part of the city's natural history. There's also the incredible mix of languages. Experts say that more than 800 languages are spoken in New York's 5 boroughs, making it the most linguistically diverse place ever. Some of these are rare Himalayan dialects and endangered languages like Sikh, which is spoken by fewer than 700 people worldwide. Many Sikh speakers live in a single building in Queens, so now this language survives only in New York. Geographically, New York City is mostly made up of islands. Only the Bronx is actually connected to the mainland United States. The other boroughs are on islands or parts of islands. Manhattan is famous for its purchase price, but Staten Island has a different story. The last argument over Staten Island ended with British loyalists getting 1 chest of rum and 5 pounds of gunpowder as payment. That's really what happened. The vertical and the invisible. When there's not enough land, people build up. The Empire State Building is so big it has its own zip code, 10118. It's like a city stacked on top of itself, with more people than many American towns. In fact, more than 40 buildings in Manhattan get so much mail that each one has its own zip code. But the Empire State Building's history includes a shocking event. On a foggy morning in July 1945, a B-25 bomber got lost in the mist and crashed into the 79th floor. The crash made an 18-foot wide hole and sent an engine down an elevator shaft. Amazingly, the fire was put out in 40 minutes, and the building reopened the next Monday. It's the only skyscraper ever to survive a direct hit from a military plane and stay standing. Not every skyscraper is made for people. At 33 Thomas Street, there's a 550-foot windowless tower built to survive a nuclear blast. It's officially called the Long Lines Building, but some investigations say it's also an NSA surveillance center known as Titan Point. This fortress watches the world's communications while blending into the city. The push to build higher has led to a billion-dollar market for air. Property owners sell the empty space above their buildings to developers, letting them build taller than zoning rules would normally allow. This air rights market changes the skyline by selling invisible space, not just using engineering. It's led to spite buildings and towers that hang over their neighbors like architectural bullies. But behind all this modern height is an old technology. The skyline is full of water towers. Even in a city of glass and steel, water pressure depends on cedar tanks that look like they're from the 1800s. The wood, yellow cedar or California redwood, swells when wet, making a watertight seal without glue or nails. It's still the best way to get water to tall buildings. In a city known for looking ahead, its most important resource is managed with a method from the 1800s. The subterranean world. What's under the streets can be even stranger than what's above. The New York City subway has 472 stations, making it the biggest in the world by that count. If you lined up all the tracks, they'd stretch from New York to Chicago. But in this underground world, scientists have found over 15,000 life forms. Researchers from Weill Cornell Medicine took samples from turnstiles and benches all over the city. Strangely, almost half the DNA they found doesn't match any known organism. The subway is like a biological mystery zone, growing new genetic profiles all the time. Among the working stations are ghost stations, abandoned stops like the beautiful City Hall station, with its curved glass skylights and brass chandeliers. It closed in 1945 because the new, longer trains couldn't make the sharp turn. Now, you can only see it if you stay on the 6th train as it turns back uptown. There are secret tracks, too. Under the Waldorf Astoria is Track 61. President Franklin D. Roosevelt used it to enter the city in secret, hiding his paralysis. His armored train car, with steel plates and bulletproof glass, would pull into a special elevator that lifted his limousine right into the hotel garage. That car is said to still be there, rusting in the dark, a reminder of a time when presidents kept their health private. But the most valuable secret is even deeper underground. The Federal Reserve Bank's gold vault sits on Manhattan's bedrock, 80 feet below the street. It holds the world's largest known gold stash, about 500,000 bars for central banks from many countries. The security is old-fashioned, almost medieval. There are no high-tech scanners. Instead, a huge 90-ton steel cylinder locks the vault. Workers wear magnesium shoe covers to protect their feet from gold bars worth about $700,000 each. Historical accidents. People say history is written by the winners, but in New York, it's often written by accident. Wall Street got its name from a 12-foot wooden wall the Dutch built in 1653 to keep out the British and pirates. The wall stood for almost 50 years and marked the city's northern edge. When the British took over, they tore it down for building materials. So, the world's financial center is named after a wall that didn't work. The old infrastructure still shapes the city today. Broadway, the oldest north-south street, doesn't follow the city's grid because it started as a Native American trail called the Wickwaskeck Trail. The modern road just follows the old path used by the Lenape people. Where this winding trail crosses the city's straight lines, you get famous places like Union Square, Herald Square, and Times Square. The city's busy intersections are really where Dutch planning meets indigenous history of Washington Square Park with an overlay of skeletal remains. As the city grew north, people built right over old burial grounds. Washington Square Park, now popular with NYU students, used to be a marsh where executions happened and a potter's field. It's estimated that about 20,000 bodies are still buried under the park. The Hangman's Elm in the corner is thought to be Manhattan's oldest tree, and some say it was used for public hangings. In New York, you're almost always walking over history, and sometimes a graveyard. In the late 1800s, New York had a huge sanitation problem. Before cars, there were more than 100,000 horses in the city, and people had to deal with piles of manure everywhere. It's estimated that 2.5 million pounds of manure landed on the streets every day. This mess pushed the city to start building underground transit. In 1870, Alfred Ely Beach built a subway powered by air. A single car pushed through a tunnel by a giant fan. It was a fancy ride, with a waiting room that had a grand piano, chandeliers, and a fountain. It carried 400,000 people in its first year, but political problems shut it down. Beach built it in secret, saying he was just making a mail tube. When the real subway opened in 1904, the fare was a nickel. This led to the pizza principle. For over 50 years, the price of a subway ride has matched the cost of a slice of pizza. When one goes up, so does the other. The legal Twilight Zone. One of the most interesting things about New York is its legal code, which still includes old laws that were never removed. For example, adultery is still technically a crime, a Class B misdemeanor that's been on the books since 1907. It's almost never enforced, but it shows how the state once tried to control people's morals. Some rules go even further. You could, in theory, be fined $25 for flirting in public, and wearing slippers outside after 10 p.m. is technically against the rules. In recent years, New York made it illegal to take tiger selfies. This happened because some men started posing with tigers at fairs to look adventurous on dating apps. The state stepped in for safety reasons. Now, hugging a tiger can cost you a $500 fine. Then there was the pinball ban. From the 1940s to 1976, pinball was outlawed in New York City because it was seen as a gambling tool run by the mob. Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia led raids where he smashed pinball machines with sledgehammers and threw the pieces into the Hudson River. The ban ended in 1976 when Roger Sharp, a magazine editor and pinball expert, went to court in Manhattan to show that pinball was a game of skill, not luck. With the city council watching, he called his shot, pulled the plunger, and made it. It was the Babe Ruth moment of arcade games, and the council had to lift the ban. That's exactly what happened. Other specific prohibitions include: it is illegal to throw a ball at someone's head for fun. You cannot hold a puppet show in your window if it distracts pedestrians. And the legend of the ice cream cone. It is widely believed that carrying an ice cream cone in your back pocket on a Sunday is illegal. This oddity was originally designed to prevent horse theft, as thieves would lure horses away with a treat without technically touching or stealing the animal. Upstate oddities and final anomalies. The odd stories don't stop at the city's edge. New York has a town that only exists because of a copyright trick. In the 1930s, mapmakers invented a fake town called Agloe in the Catskills to catch people copying their maps. If Agloe showed up on another map, they knew it was a copy. But in the 1950s, people saw Agloe on a map, went there, and built the Agloe General Store. When the mapmakers tried to sue, the store owners proved the town was real just by standing in it. The fake town became real by accident. There's also the world's smallest church, which sits on a wooden platform in a pond in Oneida. Called the Cross Island Chapel, it's about 29 square feet and seats just 2 people. You can only reach it by boat. It's a place made for total solitude. In 1969, New York pulled off an engineering miracle. They turned off Niagara Falls to study erosion and rock safety. The Army Corps of Engineers built a dam to stop the flow of the American Falls. For months, the waterfall was silent, showing a dry cliff and millions of coins tossed by tourists over the years. Workers cleared loose rocks, strengthened the base, and then let the water flow again. And then there's the Big Flush. This urban legend is actually based on real science. During the Super Bowl halftime show, the city's sewage levels drop as everyone watches the game, then spike as soon as halftime ends. The water pressure holds up, but when millions of toilets flush at once, the city's reservoir levels drop noticeably. Finally, think about the High Line. Before it became a park, it was a freight train line. Before that, trains ran right on 10th Avenue, which people called Death Avenue because of all the accidents. To keep people safe, the railroad hired West Side Cowboys, men on horses with red flags who rode up and down Manhattan until 1941. It was a strange mix of modern industry and old-fashioned cowboys. Did New York ever solve its legal and practical problems? Or did it just make things so complicated that everyone is breaking some law without even knowing it? From strange life forms in the subway to gold bars hidden under the streets, New York is a place where the impossible happens every day. The state is full of wild facts, held together by ambition, old laws, and sheer determination. The city's strength isn't in its order, but in how it keeps going despite all the chaos. It makes you wonder, does New York's extreme density offer a glimpse of the future, or is it just a fascinating kind of organized chaos? If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the algorithm show this video to others with similar interests. Let us know in the comments what other kinds of videos you would like to see in the future. Thanks for watching. This is the Bigger Map.